Tony Meyer, and welcome to a brand new take with Michelle Pettis. Michelle is a food story finder, a author, a speaker, and her new book, Leaving Large: The Stories of a Food Addict, is coming out soon. Michelle, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Colleen Meyer. I love it every time you do that introduction. It makes me so happy to hear that. Uh, Dr. Colleen Meyer, our producer and moderator extraordinaire. Appreciate you being on screen tonight. We also have on screen tonight Gina Cushenberry, a licensed nutritionist, to make sure we eat the right things, right? So keep the nutrition and the nourishment in order. And that's important. But what we also say is that we got to start in the head first, right? We got to Everybody else focuses on and counting calories, counting carbs, counting macros. I'm not even sure I know what a macro is. But anyway, I'm sure Gina can tell us. But before we can count any of that, before that can really make the difference that we want it to make, we got to count all these thoughts that we have in our head that send us down the wrong path. And so that's what we do on Sunday nights. If it's Sunday night at 7 o'clock, it's a brand new take, and we shine a light on why we eat what we eat. We're all here because we want to raise our collective consciousness, right? We want to raise our collective consciousness so that we're not eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and we're not doing it unconsciously. So this is about getting woke about food, right? We get woke about everything else. This is about getting woke about why you eat what you eat. And if you are tuning in for the first time, so delighted to see you. Well, not see you, but have you here. So make yourself known. Put your name in the chat. Say that you're here. Let us know that you're here. If you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. If you have any comments, put your comments in the chat. If you want to come on screen and be up here on the big screen with Dr. Colleen and Gina and me, we can send you the StreamYard link and you can be up on stage and we can, do a face-to-face kind of something. But what we do on a brand new take, and what we have been doing for the past couple of weeks, is we take everyday situations, everyday food situations that we encounter, and we break them apart. We break them apart because I hear all the time. Not only do I hear all the time, I experienced it for 40 years myself, for eating for reasons that don't have anything to do with hunger. And that's such a huge battle, that we really figure out what it is that we're feeling. What are we feeling right now? Is it actually hunger, or is it something else that's driving us to, put that extra handful of peanuts in our mouth, that extra handful of popcorn, extra candy bars, just because it's just sitting there? Who knows, right? Well, we know, but that's why we break it apart every Sunday night. So before we get to the question, before we get to the dilemma, I just want to make a few announcements or a few reminders that if you have not downloaded your free chapter of Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict, please do it now. You can do it at leavinglarge.com. Please, if you when you download your free chapter, then that gets you in the database so that you can be the first to know when the book actually comes out, and you can pre-order it. You can pre-order it. I'll sign it for you. I'll even do it. I'll even sign it for you if you get it, from leavinglarge.com. And when it comes out, it's going to be available in bookstores and wherever you might want to buy books. But if you get on the mailing list, download your free chapter, then that gives you some VIP access. Now, everybody wants to be a VIP, right? And if you would like more of this, hands-on, like face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, please join the Facebook group. I Am Brand New Now Facebook group. And, we have daily posts and discussions that just keep us, that help keep us on track, help keep us motivated. It's a community. Because one of the things that I found on my journey is that I was just trying to do it by myself. And as soon as I opened up my questions and opened up my struggles and opened up my challenges to some like-minded people, it became easier. It became easier, and we have to know that it's okay for us to call on our brothers and sisters, right? That it's okay, it's good. People want us to win, right? People want us to win, and they love it when we, reach out for help. And and that's why we have the Facebook. That's why we have the Facebook group. So if you're watching on the group, yay, good to see you. If you're watching on YouTube, great to see you. And also you can follow me on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram. And what I'm doing on Instagram right now is I'm putting out little snippets from the chapters. Hi, Shelly. It's good to see you.
Hi.
I'm putting out little.
An easy thing to do.
Okay.
And
Did you
don't have to come.
Did you unmute your mic? Okay, great. And what I'm doing is I'm putting out little snippets of the chapter every day to kind of give you a little sneak preview as to what's coming. So be on the lookout for that. So all the housekeeping aside, Dr. Colleen, why don't you give us our dilemma, our Monday dilemma, and we're going to jump right in and unpack that. And so, Shelly, anytime you feel like you want to jump in with your question, comment, observation, feel free to do it.
Okay. You ready, Michelle?
I'm ready.
Okay, this is the dilemma from last Monday. You're out with your 8-year-old daughter for a special mommy-daughter day. She begs you for a grown-up meal. You feel it may be too much for her, but she assures you that she will eat it all. Halfway through the meal, she is full and doesn't want to finish it. What do you do?
Ooh. So I want to give you a little background to that question. But I didn't make that, some of these scenarios I make up, I didn't make that one up. That one was a real scenario. And the reason that I included it is because I did have someone tell me several years back that they felt like that they were gaining weight because their child wasn't eating everything on their plate. And so when the child didn't eat everything on the plate, they would go ahead and eat what the child did not finish. And that's why they were gaining weight. And, when I heard that, what came to my mind was, okay, there's a reason that we say we do something, and then there's the real reason that we do something. And it just kind of sat with me. But what also came up was, the food story of not throwing away food, right? Of not wasting food. And if Leslie was here, she would talk about wasting, or either wasting, whichever waste we're talking about. So I was struck by the fact that, all right, it seems like to me that there are a couple of different options. Well, if you know your child is not going to eat it, why give them that much? Just give them less. And if they want more, allow them to have more, but don't give them so much in the first place. So that becomes the first question. And the second question is, if you know that you're going to eat what your child doesn't eat, then why not factor that into what you don't eat as much as you normally eat, if you know you're going to eat half of their meal. So there seem to be some practical things that were going on there in my mind. But also, and you can probably weigh in on this, Gina, is there's some other stuff going on there with that scenario too, that doesn't necessarily have to do with that. So if now the floor is yours, now that I've laid the ground.
No, I mean, just think with that being, that's a big food story for a lot of people, wasting the food, not wanting to throw it out. But, when we find ourselves, I've always said this several times to people, it's just, that's when you have to make that decision. Is it going to go in your stomach and waste away in your body and not serve it any purpose? Or is it going to go in the trash and go in the real waste and be recycled or whatever have you? So, I mean, making that decision, because that, if you put it in your body, what the consequences are. So it is kind of, it almost does become trash in a sense. I mean, if you look at it from that side, you know what I mean? And I think too, there's another lesson in here too, is teaching a lesson to our children about behavior with food. We have that other opportunity here to kind of like explore that. I think when you think about teaching the kid, like, no, we got to finish it. You didn't finish it. So why not bag it up? Why not make it okay that we can have this later? We can have this tomorrow. I mean, I think there's some lessons that can start there, with this particular scenario. So
And
yeah.
And so, when you say that, when I hear that story, when I think about that story, and I think about, what you said, so much comes up in my mind about what I talk about the food stories that we have that are governing our behavior, and we don't even realize it. And the food story, for you, Shelley, since you're tuning in, is our food stories are rooted in the events, the experiences, and the memories that we have around food. And it's just a story. And sometimes, those stories can be conscious, they can be subconscious, and they can be unconscious. And when I think about the ones that are conscious, it's the people that are allergic to something. They're allergic to peanuts, or they're allergic to crab meat or seafood. They're real conscious that if I eat this food, I'm going to have this experience. My throat's going to swell up. I'm going to get hives. I'm allergic to it. I don't eat it. So that's their food story as it relates to that. It's real, it's real in your face kind of thing. But then we also have these food stories that we don't even sometimes recognize that they're playing out in our everyday life, like that cleaning of your plate. You go to, and we've said this many times, as I've said it many times, we go to some place like Cheesecake Factory, right? And I'm not hating on Cheesecake Factory, but any place that serves you these super large portions, and you grew up, oh, you need to clean your plate. We don't waste food in this house. People work too hard. Food is, there's like this equation to it. And so you feel compelled to eat past what you might even feel is hunger, because you've got this food story that you haven't identified that's saying, I need to eat this. Or if you get on a diet, or you follow some sort of diet program, and it says just eat until you're satisfied, but you're satisfied halfway through, but you still have food on your plate. You can't even follow the first tenets of the diet, because this food story is saying finish it, finish it, finish it, finish it, because there's starving kids somewhere. And
Right.
that's what we do.
You have the privilege to have this food.
You're privileged. Go ahead.
And I mean, just being a nutritionist, the first thing for me that doesn't sit well with me with that whole persona is that, but then we're also feeding disease and things that can come up later because we've eaten all of this food, after we're full, and that leads to obesity, and it leads to high blood pressure or whatever, other conditions, medical conditions. So I feel like that's part of, I think that we need to kind of like tie that into that story for us. And maybe that's something that can help somebody over that hump, and thinking of, taking in this excess. What is really being saved at the end of the day? Is it it's just money? I mean, I know money is something we all work really hard for, but at the same time, it's money versus our health. And then also not passing that food story, in this case, on to our child. Because like I said, you don't have to pass that story on. You can pass the story on of, it's okay if you didn't finish it. We'll finish it later.
Right.
And
right.
when your stomach can, take it in, it's okay, not forcing that. So again, I guess
when you're hungry, like when you're hungry
when
later,
you really want,
right?
yeah.
When you're hungry later. But there's just like this. We just have to be real, careful, not real careful, but mindful of the emotion like this that's attached to it. And when I think about, again, with the person putting all the food on the plate, is that, I think there's some fear rooted in that, right? That they want to make sure that their child has plenty. Right. I'm going to make, I don't want to hear, mommy, I'm hungry. Right. Because then that'll mean I'm a bad parent. So we have to really just like start looking at the emotions that we attach to food. Because even I've had, people that I've worked with that say, and this is a story that really touched me. She said, I will never use food as punishment, or I will never use it as reward. And she's told me that story. She said, because when her mother was a kid, her grandmother would punish them by making them eat hot food, like really spicy food. And it was just so traumatic that, and so, we get kind of confused about what food really is. It's just nourishment and nutrition. And we use it for so many other things. And we and I've been talking, and I see Shelly here, and I feel like, Shelly, I want to bring you into the conversation and see if you have some observations or some thoughts, or even why you might be on the call tonight. We would love to kind of like get to know you. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Oh, you
go.
can't hear me?
We can now.
Okay. Michelle has recently opened my eyes to things I could not believe about myself and why and when I eat. So forgive me if I seem lost. This is just so fascinating. No, I can't hear
Michelle,
you.
you're muted.
Oh.
Muted. There you go.
I'm just so excited that you're on the call. I'm glad that you're on the call.
Sorry. I'm excited too.
Yes. So we're gonna keep on doing some unpacking then.
Okay.
So back to this situation, with this. Thank you. Put the questions in the chat. Back to the situation with the child and the mother. So right now I can't even remember what my friend said that she did. I do remember that she was pretty upset that she hadn't eaten it all. But we have to really work, like you said, Gina, to start thinking about what waste is, right? And it's so hard, I think, for a lot of people, that if you are in a situation where you just want to go in and you want to pull out the things in your kitchen that aren't good for you, right? And I actually have worked with people that have said, okay, I'm going to go on this diet, but first I'm going to eat this other stuff, right? And that's so completely defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. So we attach so much to food that we need to detach, and we have to really be conscious of. And the questions really do become, why, what does this food mean? What does this food represent? What kind of associations am I making with it? Right. And I think it's especially important as we're now moving into the holidays.
Absolutely.
So that's 2 weeks away, and then it's just holiday season after holiday season after holiday season. And I don't know, have I ever told you all the eggnog story?
Yeah. I've heard it. Maybe not everybody else.
All right. So all right. Well, I mean, it kind of seems like it's appropriate since we're about to go.
Yeah. Right.
So here's the eggnog story. I come from an eggnog loving family. And around this time of the year, it becomes very clear to me that there are two kinds of people in the world: the people that like eggnog and people that don't like eggnog. And I'm telling you, I used to just like lose my mind over eggnog. I mean, I would buy it by like multiple cartons. It didn't even, the fact that it was rich didn't mean anything. I didn't even know what that definition was, right? And as I started on this journey, like 2 years ago, and started thinking about making adjustments, I started asking myself, what is it about eggnog? So first of all, I know it's the sugar. I knew I was a sugar addict, so it's sweeter. So there's that other piece of it, and I knew it because of the alcohol. I had brandy and rum and all that was in there, but I had stopped. I had stopped drinking the alcohol, and I was really trying to think, what was this thing with the eggnog? And the way that I unpacked it is I unpacked it like I did so many of the food attachments that I had. I went back to the first time I had it. And the first time I had it, I must have been about 5 or 6 years old. And I was around my older cousins, my older cousins, Vicky and Bonnie, who I adored. So I was from the country South, and they were in LA, you know, my sophisticated older cousins. At 5 years old, did I know what sophisticated meant? But in my mind, they were sophisticated, right? And we were visiting them, and one of them came out, and she had a little glass, and she was really kind of holding it like it was special. I looked at it, and it looked white. I thought it was milk, but it wasn't. I knew it wasn't milk because she was drinking it. She wasn't drinking it like she was milk. But I'm curious. And so there's an emotional reason right there for eating. Let me just stop. Eating out of curiosity, right? Okay. So if we step away from the nutrition and what's that you have? That looks good. Let me taste that. Would you like? I mean, so that doesn't have anything to do with nutrition and nourishment. It has everything about curiosity. Somebody else experiencing something that you're not experiencing. But back to the eggnog story. So I want some. I'm with my grandmother. She's like, no, you can't have any. And so my uncle says, well, she can have it. There's nothing in it. And what he meant was alcohol, right? Because, his kid was 10 or 12 years old. He was giving her alcohol, but she can have some. So I'm like, well, can I have some? And so she finally relented and let me have this eggnog. And it was delicious, of course. But as I was unpacking this story, I went back to how I felt when I was allowed to have it. And the feeling was really being connected to this older, sophisticated cousin that I loved and adored, and how grown up I felt, and special I felt being allowed to have the eggnog. So from that point forward, every time eggnog came out, it became about recapturing that joy that came from being allowed to have it. And then over time, it became that, and then it became the brandy or the alcohol, and became the sugar, and it just became layers and layers and layers. But as I sit here right now, I haven't had eggnog since 2018, and I don't miss it, right? I don't miss it. I don't even really think about it during the holidays. What I still remember it, right? I remember that it was tasty. And and I can really have like a vanilla protein shake, sprinkle some nutmeg on it, put a little vanilla on it, and be tricked. Because it's really not about the food. It's about that memory. It's about being able to pull that up. And quite frankly, I've had enough eggnog over my lifetime that I'll never have to have it again.
I can actually relate to that, because I do remember having eggnog, and it was kind of like that privilege of like, and I had the spiked one. I was 5, but I had the spiked one. But it was like still, it was like that privilege of like, oh, I get to have, and then so it for me, it came tied into the holidays. But then I think the turning point for me was like, do I even like this? Like, what? I mean, for me, and I really didn't. And so that was the end of eggnog for me. But I mean, it was like, it was just this thing. It's like, oh, it's Christmas. There's eggnog available. It has some liquor in it. It's fine. But I mean, then I had to really, really ask myself, when I went through my own weight loss journey and all that, I had to sit down and say, what am I getting from this?
Right.
It doesn't even, the taste is not something that I love. I'd rather have a piece of chocolate, as I always everybody.
Regina, I think you hit on something really important with that. And that is really just taking an inventory. Do I really like this? And not, yeah, I mean, not that that's the only criteria, but when you start thinking about it, just evaluating again, am I hungry, or am I something else? Why this food now? And will this food get me to the body that I say that I want? I mean, those are 3 power questions that empower us as we move through this journey, if we're willing to stop.
Yep.
If we're just willing to stop and ask those questions before we put everything in our mouth. Because so much of what we eat is just habit. It's just unconscious. It's just there, right? Oh, here, you walk, somebody walks up, right? You're in a crowd of people, they have a bag of potato chips. Because they're hospitable, because they're gracious. Would you like some? Would you like some chips? Yeah, sure, I'll have some. You've done it 1,000 times. Or the person walks up, oh, what are you eating? You those are cookies? May I have some? You weren't even thinking about food until they walked up. You weren't even hungry. But now they have walked up and there's food and you just feel like, and so it's those kind of situations that happen all day long.
Yeah.
That we need to interrupt. We need a pattern interrupt. And those 3 questions give us a pattern interrupt. And if we start thinking about, why this food now? When was the first time I had it? Who was the person that gave it to me, right? Who was cooking it? Who was in the room? And we get like into that, then we can start separating the feeling about the food, the experience about the food, from the memory of the food to the food.
And then taste.
And taste.
You taste the food, chew the food. Do you really like it? There's some things out there you might discover after you've really let the palate, because a lot of people will take a bite and swallow it, and you haven't even really like let the taste, develop and really experience it.
Right.
I think that's important too.
That is so important, because what I have found is over the course of this journey is that my palate has changed. It is definitely changed, and it's interesting to me that what I feel like is that now that I don't eat so many foods, really not any really, that with preservatives and packaged foods and things like that, that when spinach hits my tongue, I can taste it. I know what it tastes like. Or when, I don't know, asparagus hits it, the flavor is more intense. The flavor is actually more enjoyable. That it's like, this is really, this is like this, a mushroom. You can eat a mushroom without it being fried, deep fried with cornmeal. Right?
And it still will taste good.
It can taste good.
But that's like, that reminds me of like growing up, and like I had to have cheese sauce on my broccoli. If you put that stuff on there today, I would throw it. I can't eat that. That's hard.
Right.
The cheese is now ruining it, when before the cheese made the whole thing.
Right.
I think it's like that too. It's like unpacking the food, right, so to speak, and actually tasting it, and then discovering what you really do like and what's really worth it for you to go sit down and really enjoy and eat. Because I think, it is food and nourishment and energy, but I think too, we still get some pleasure and some fun out of eating foods, but really, is it really enjoyable? That's you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Well, and I don't want to, as one of my clients had told me, that I suck the joy out of eating.
We don't want to enjoy it, but really ask yourself, are you really enjoying it? Like, seriously. Right. I know we take the joy out of it. I've heard that one too. Like, well, what do I have left? Right? It's never about that. It's about finding the new joy in the food, right?
Right, finding the new joy.
the new enjoyment and the flavor and the fun out of it. Because there's new things to discover that serve our bodies even better.
Yes. But we have to be open to it.
Right.
I'm not trying to do that, right? But what I am going to say is that I do remember so many times, and it's not that food shouldn't be enjoyable or pleasurable or taste good. It should be, right? It should be, but it's not the first thing.
Right.
The purpose of food is nourishment and nutrition, and the reality is that unless it was going to taste good to some degree, why would we do it? We wouldn't. It's kind of like sex. If it didn't feel good, why would anybody ever do it? We would never procreate. Because what on earth would be the purpose, right? So at the root of it, here's to new joy. Hey Shay, good to see you. Yes, here's here's to new joy, because at the root of it is nourishment and nutrition. And as you kind of get more into that, what you find is that it tastes better. Nourishment and nutrition tastes better, really, because of you start changing your associations.
Mhm.
And we are hit with so many advertising, and I say that having worked in the industry myself, advertising messages that link pleasure and fun and a good time and friends and family to all sorts of foods that build up the industry and build up our butts at the same time. So
Yeah.
so we have to be careful, because nobody's going to protect our bodies but us. No, I was in a restaurant yesterday. I'm in a restaurant 3 times this week. You go in, I used to be a server. Oh, would you like an appetizer?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I would like an appetizer. Bring me some carrots and celery. No, that's not, that's not, what back in the day, it was fried zucchini with the ranch dipping sauce. It's something a little bit different now, but none of that. Oh, would you like a drink? Would you like a drink while you're looking at the menu? All right. So, what are you going to get? You're going to get a glass of wine. You're going to get a spirit. So you would have consumed 300 to 450 calories before your main meal ever comes. Easily. Wow. Then you do that, and then the dessert tray comes.
And what is this? A habit, right?
It's
a habit.
It's a
that
habit.
We just feel like you go to the restaurant, you have to get all these things,
because it's on the menu. It's on the menu, because they offer it, and so that's
as if we're never going to be able to go back again. Right. Like, so like, try one thing, you'll come back another time. Yeah.
This is the last meal we'll ever have. We'll never be able to come back and get this again. Right. But it is the fact that we have to be vigilant.
Yes.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as being set. There's no such thing as not having to, I don't want to say worry about it, but there's no such thing as having to think about it. But the real trick is for us to find joy in thinking about it, right? Not to think of the thinking about it as a chore, but to know that as we think about it and we make these decisions, that making those decisions is a joyful thing. Making those decisions is a happy thing. Making those decisions that serve your body is empowering. So we just have to flip the script on how we view and how we think about making smart choices for our body, and think about the result. Not what's on the plate in front of us right now, but eating for the result that we want. And if we want a result that's good for us, then we just stay focused on the result. I'm eating this spinach salad with the vinegar, with the champagne vinaigrette or whatever. I'm eating this because I want to wear that pantsuit. And I want the adoration that comes when I wear the pantsuit. I want the sense of pride that comes when I wear the pantsuit, or the clothes is for me. Somebody else may have.
And that's tying a new memory to that too.
Because you have
a new memory of that spinach salad served me well and got me to my goal, and it makes me feel good every day. Or it's my digestion is better, or because I eat that salad, you know what I mean? On a regular, so little things like that. I think that's also the flip side to this too, is that's how you can create your new food story with it.
Absolutely. That's I'm so glad you said that, because this is recognizing the old food stories and creating a new one.
Yeah.
Because we're in a space of creation. That's the whole point, is that, and we do that all the time in our lives. And there's no reason why we can't do it with food. It's every reason why we should do it with food. Absolutely. It's how we want to look, how we want to feel, how we want to show up. And we've had like a good run tonight. It's like we're at 34 minutes. I think it's time to be mindful of people's time.
Right.
And Michelle,
yes,
we want to have Gina, our nutritionist.
Oh yes, talk about the recipe. Yes, yes. Talk about the recipe.
So this week we did salmon pecan cake. So I know a lot of people, we traditionally make salmon cakes, but this just had a little twist, a little pecan in there. It was also one of the things I didn't want to bring up was it's with wild salmon. So just rethinking about, wild versus the farm raised. I'm gonna always recommend wild caught as much as we can. Not denouncing farm fresh, but there's a reason why I put the wild caught. And that the fact that you can get it in a can or you can actually get the fresh. Either way, this recipe will work. But it could be an appetizer, it could be a full-on meal. It's also a good little side thing to bring to the Thanksgiving dinner this year.
Yes.
Well.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And and I'm glad you said that there is, there is power, there is power in bringing your own food,
Mhm.
right? It is. I mean, you have more control, and it is stepping into the fact that you're committed to the body that you say that you want. And over time, yeah, people are gonna say, "You brought your own food," and you're gonna say yes, and then some respect is gonna show up, right? Because going to become who you are. And if we don't speak up for our own bodies, if we don't speak up for the way that we want to show up, nobody else is going to do it for us. So we are really the is it what's the female version of cap? We're the captains of our own destiny. I'm just going to use that. we,
Yeah.
we are in control. We are in control of that. But we're gonna wind down now. I want to thank you
Okay.
so much, Gina. You always for your input, your insight. That
Yeah.
fabulous salmon recipe.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Shelley, for joining us tonight. Hope to see you next Sunday. And as
Yes.
always, thank you, Dr. Colleen, for your moderating and producing skills. We appreciate you so much. And for anybody that is joining us on Facebook Live, if you're joining us on YouTube, thank you so much for joining in. I hope that tonight's conversation serves you tonight. I hope it serves you throughout your coming weeks, and I hope it serves you to getting to a body that you love. Remember, it's not about the
I hope
food,
so
it's
too.
about the story behind the food. Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right.